So in the mid-1900s, there was a lot going on involving a lot of racial tension. The blacks and the whites were at odds about equality, and there were arguments about education, sports, and the general rights stated in the Constitution. There were places specifically for whites that blacks couldn't go, and frankly, the blacks didn't think that this was fair, at all. So in 1963, Project C, one of the most influential campaigns, started. It started with lunch counter sit-ins and marches to City Hall protesting racial segregation. These once peaceful protests turned violent when authorities used dogs and fire hoses to harm the protesters. This led to some of the most iconic pictures of the civil rights movement. Before this time, fueling the fire in 1962, blacks were being denied the right to own real estate and were shunned into impoverished ghettos. They were refused home loans, thus forcing them into unsanitary homes. Blacks would come in and look at houses, and, like the movie Erasing the Sun, they would be turned away by the white people of that community. The blacks were all like, "Son, one day Daddy's going to buy you a big old house," and the white people would come in and be like, "We don't want the blacks in our neighborhood because we're afraid of change and not being in charge all the time, so get out before we feel bad about shutting you away from the rights given to you in the Constitution." So John F. Kennedy comes in with his fancy hair and his little tie and signs Executive Order 11063, which prohibited discrimination of blacks in the sale, leasing, rental, or other disposition of properties and facilities owned or operated by the federal government or provided with federal funds. The order was never fully enforced, however, so it kind of slowed the equal rights process for housing like a sloth.